Trying to get some indirect sunlight, some vitamin D, because because of various factors, I don't really get vitamin D. And the only supplement my body doesn't completely reject causes me to bleed more heavily because they don't make it without vitamin C in it as a multivitamin and all that, so it sucks. Anyway, I was sitting right outside. I'd taken a chair out. I wasn't out there very long. Then there was a yellow jacket. I don't mean like a jacket somebody wears, I mean a wasp. I'm allergic to bees and wasps. And yellow jackets are kind of aggressive. So I came inside. Not all the different genuses are aggressive necessarily. Wasps do tend to be more aggressive than bees, but yellow jackets are usually a bit more likely. They're not usually common in this area though, so why? I don't know. It's not like they can't be here, so it's just that they're not as common. They're more common in places like Pennsylvania. I mean, these things are aggressive. I grew up with stories of how aggressive these things could be, and how easy it is to attract them with just perfume or, body spray or something. My grandfather had hair gel, and it attracted them while they were riding their bikes on a trail. So, yeah. He never said if he got stung or not. But if he didn't, he's really lucky, because they're a little bit more likely to sting you than some of the other ones. So I came inside because I don't have an EpiPen. I do not have an EpiPen. Basically, it's been deemed that I could make it to the hospital alive, and basically that I have 3 allergies and they would only give me an EpiPen for one thing, and I'm not 100% on if EpiPens are the same for each thing or not. Hey, something I haven't researched. But if you use it for one of the other 2 things, I guess they won't cover. And I'm like, well, this makes no sense. Because each of these things is bad. And actually, but I do a pretty good job of avoiding them. So, raspberries, bees, and wasps. To be fair, a bee will only truly be really well, no, I'd still probably have to go to the hospital. My throat would still swell. But I may actually be able to ride it out with antihistamines and not have to go to the hospital. A wasp, though, has a stronger venom, and I've never actually had to endure the stings, so it was more like they said, well, you're allergic to bees, so you're probably even more allergic to wasps. So, don't get stung. Otherwise, you will probably go into some sort of anaphylactic shock or something. That's what I was told years ago. Years ago. They were like, yeah, whatever you're allergic to in bees, it's probably more in wasps, so don't get stung, because people who are allergic to bees are usually more allergic to wasps. Or usually, I don't know. It was the doctor at the time. So, I just avoid both. And I've actually researched it, and there's a lot of people, they're like, yeah, it's true, if you're allergic to bees, you're allergic to wasps. And I'm just like, I just don't want to go into anaphylactic shock or like get stung somewhere that it causes like everything to swell up. And yeah. There's also the fact that, whenever I got stung by a bee, my whole hand swelled up. That's where I got swollen. Well, that's where I got stung. And then my throat swelled up, and it was pretty bad for a first reaction. But someone had like a first aid on hand for allergies, I guess, specifically because it was, I guess, a daycare or something, and they had some other kids who had allergies. So they acted fast, like boom, and yeah. So I didn't die or have to go to the emergency room. Actually, it was more like Gary wouldn't let us go to the emergency room, and Mom was afraid that the state would get involved again if I went to the emergency room, or they would try and say that it was their fault or a shortcoming with them somehow, or because she was a single mom and I was at daycare, because they'd already tried to argue this shit. So, yeah, we just avoided it. But yeah, some years later I was told just don't go near either one. And the raspberries, that I found out the hard way. Like, just the first time I had a reaction, I didn't even realize that it was that. I thought that it was something else, and I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. The next time, all I did was eat the stuff that, like, because I didn't really like raspberries all that much, so it was okay. And it took a couple times for us to realize that it was raspberries. And each time the reaction got worse, and that one I could possibly end up in anaphylactic shock over for sure. So let's not. Let's just avoid this, shall we? Because, like, it's one of those allergies where the more exposure I got to it, the worse the allergy got. So, yeah, the worse the reaction was. That last time I actually almost had to go to the emergency room, so luckily that was the time that we figured out what it was. It is to the point where if you stir tea with a spoon that has stirred raspberry tea, if you have not cleaned it off well enough, I will break out in hives and my throat will get a little bit swollen just from that. This is just residue that hasn't been thoroughly cleaned off. That's a minor reaction. But it's also something most people aren't that heavily allergic to anything. So I just avoid raspberries and anything if, like, it's a juice and it doesn't specify what juice it has, it just says natural fruit juice. We need to know what it is. Because especially some fruit juices, they'll add in raspberry and raspberry extract because they think that this makes it better. And it really just, yeah. I don't know, maybe for some people it does. For me, it means I can't drink it. There's some stuff that we know just because whenever I was younger, I just didn't react to it. So we know that at least at that point, there was no raspberry in it. But we just for safety, because if they change it, they may not necessarily tell people that they've changed it. We just avoid things that aren't specific. Dubiously unspecific labels. Because they don't want to just say, yeah, we just put a bunch of different kinds of juice in there. Why is this guy parking right out front? this an expensive car? I'll never understand why they always stop in front of our place to look at the place next door. Just stop in front of that one. Nobody ever uses the walkway. Don't know why they always park right in front of the walkway. Nobody uses it. Nobody. They still walk that way, still walk through the grass, but then they still park in front of our place. Like, dude, the walk is shorter. If you're gonna walk through the grass anyway and completely ignore the walkway, why do you park in front of it? Yeah. It looked like at some point they took down the sign. So either the homeowners association made them take down the sign that they were selling it, owner financing, or they found someone and they took it down. So, yeah. At least it's not as annoying as whenever this place has changed hands. And some people have no respect for the people who actually live there. They want to look at it even if there's renters. So we've endured perfect strangers walking through our place for that. I hated it because there was a period of a year where this place changed hands 3 or 4 times. We've been pretty consistent this past year, or I think maybe we're going on 2 now? Maybe? Getting there. So, this owner hasn't sold it yet, but he's also kind of skimping on the repairs, like a lot of other owners. If you can still get some functionality of it, and it's not a direct health risk, he doesn't want to touch it. So, the bathtub faucet doesn't work, and the upstairs sink doesn't, we're constantly putting stuff down it to make it drain. Because he won't listen to us that the pipes need replaced. It doesn't matter. These pipes are bad. It happens. The place is really old and things can get to that point. So we're constantly pouring stuff down it to kind of try and extend the life of this thing so that it'll drain. It drains slow. We get it to drain slow, but it won't drain at the speed that a sink is actually supposed to drain. Then there's the fact that, the owner, before Gene even moved in, there was stuff he should have done, and stuff that wasn't done, and stuff that was done wrong, and stuff that wasn't fixed from the previous tenant. Because they'd tried to do repairs, so there's parts of the floors that aren't entirely even. It's not something that you notice walking in. Homeowners Association, why do you plant things that draw flies next to people's doors? But of course, this is basically fly season. This year, I don't know why, there's just more flies than usual, so they keep on getting in. On the bright side, the neighborhood is relatively quiet. There's stuff that does happen from time to time as far as like in surrounding neighborhoods, and every once in a while, I guess, there'll be a helicopter or something, but it's not like where you gotta walk outside and worry about getting shot. Kids play outside, it's a neighborhood where kids play outside. And nobody's having to go duck and cover. So, it's your typical neighborhood. Just don't put like potted plants and shit outside, because the surrounding neighborhoods are not all that great. I mean, some of them are, some of them aren't. It's just that we're just close enough that, yeah. It's not just them either. The homeowners association, the company that they hire to like cut grass and stuff, some of the people have pointedly cut down plants they weren't supposed to, or taken people's potted plants and stuff that they have out front. So, yeah. We just kind of have a gaudy, unappealing mat to wipe off feet. Because I take offense to somebody taking my goddamn Easter lilies. Yeah. There are some plants I can't make thrive indoors. Also, that thyme plant that I tried to save that, my cat destroyed, it's dead. It is officially dead, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just gonna, deal with it. And yeah. The mint plants, I need to still check on those today. But they were pretty close to dead last I checked. There was some vague hope of maybe there being enough life in one to like save it, but that's up in the air. It's sort of like intensive care unit for plants type stuff. I mean, there's only so much stuff I can do. This parasite, I'm thinking it's more than just that one that you can visually see, maybe? Well, for whatever reason, it's like they're sucking the moisture out of the plant itself. These leaves die where the infestation is, and it is affecting the mint a lot more strongly than it affected the eggplants in the greenhouse whenever I was a teenager. There's literally nothing I can do about it besides just spray the mixture of soap and water. It's a mixture I used back then. We tested it to see if it would work, because we were trying non-toxic, easy to wash off, something that wouldn't soak into the plant and affect, stuff. So that's what I did here. And it does kill it, but it takes multiple treatments and you have to stay on it. And even then, while you're getting rid of it, it's still like draining the plant. And it takes care of it pretty well. It's just for whatever reason, this is a plant that is more quickly affected by it than the eggplants. They have like no resistance. There's also the fact that they plant several of these really close together. These aren't individually transplanted. Okay, with my basil, there are literally 2 of these plants right next to each other that are still alive. But there's two more where you can see the remnants of the dead ones. They literally put four of these together in one pot. One itsy bitsy pot. No wonder the damn thing had too many roots. And they do this, and then you're just like, you can't separate them, and it's like whoever did this doesn't realize that if you have too many plants together, they can strangle one another. Like, they can, if there's not enough space, even a plant that does not naturally seek to, strangle another plant, they can strangle one another. Like, whenever I got the basil, one of them was already dead, the other was already dying. It's quite possible that they got strangled. The roots basically got, strangled by the roots of the other two plants. You can't have that many plants in such a tiny thing. Some people do it anyway. The plant, I suspect that this is part of the reason why these are more susceptible. Because they're already trying to survive, and they're too close. I can't separate them without killing them all. So, I just planted them that way and gave them more room. And for a little while that was okay, and they were doing okay. Not necessarily as good as I wanted them to, but, they were doing reasonably well. The leaves weren't getting big as I wanted them to, they were still a little bit below average. Plants that are that close together are never going to thrive as well, no matter what you do. So they were doing well, and then barely had, established and had started to do well, and then I noticed this. And it was only on the one at first, but after a little while it got to the other one too. Hasn't gotten on the other plants. It's completely ignored the basil and the rosemary and the thyme, but the thyme is now dead anyway because that last time Gorgeous ripped up the last of the roots. Then I tried to replant them and it didn't go well. Not enough plant left to save. So, yeah. I was really looking forward to that one whenever it got bigger, because thyme is a really big one for a lot of the stuff that I make, so my cat's a dick. That is not a male-specific term. Gorgeous is a dick whenever it comes to thyme or catnip or, because she doesn't just nibble on it, no. She pulls it out by the roots. She wants to eat it from the ground up, not from the ends down. And she's a bitch, okay? So, yeah. Attempting to still get, some secondhand vitamin D, because, yeah, I don't get enough of it, and I physically have more energy and whatnot whenever I have it. So, I run low on it, obviously. Being pale-skinned does not automatically mean that I get enough. And for a little while, I was actually on a prescribed amount of vitamin D. Like, I had to have extra vitamin D because it was too low. So I was pretty deficient. So I have to be careful because if I get burned, I basically have the same reaction as sun poisoning. It's basically sun poisoning. Nobody has tested to actually see if it's like sun poisoning, like as far as your immune system having a reaction. So I don't know. It's just been categorized as a minor allergic reaction because it's not deadly. It just causes me to have fevers and the shakes and be incredibly weak, and yeah, it'll ache all over, hurt to move. I don't even need to like have a sunburn that does that. I just have to get a little bit pink on the cheeks. Although the worse the burn, the worse it is. It does kind of scale to how much I'm burnt or how much area I'm burnt in. So, like, if I'm just a little tiny bit burnt here, I'll just get a fever and maybe get a little bit of the shakes. I'll shiver that evening, and it'll probably be over in, like, a day. And it won't, like, have me bedridden or anything. It'll just be miserable. But, you know, my body didn't reject these things whenever I was little. That didn't start till after they'd used me in XYZ medical trials. So, some of those medical trials were known to bring out latent traits, and were already under heavy scrutiny because it was already being pointed out that there was a trend here. And that this had happened to enough people that they were like, hey, this looks like it brings out traits in people that are otherwise maybe even dormant in the bloodline. There's a reason I don't trust doctors. Because they knew this stuff before they were doing the freaking trials. They did it anyway. And now I'm stuck with it. And I didn't know it ahead of time, obviously. I was a little kid. I got to learn this stuff after the fact. Well, they were going, oh, your grandparents signed off your rights so you can't sue us. Well, then it came out, oh, well, you can't actually sue them even if they do that, because, if they know in good conscience no human being is okay with this being done to them, then yeah. They're still doing something that they know is bad and taking complete advantage of the fact that you have no power to legally protect yourself. So now, then after I guess that came out and a judge had ruled that another person who had this sort of thing happen to them could actually sue them, suddenly I couldn't get a hold of my records. And that's about whenever that happened. So, yeah. Suddenly, a bunch of stuff was quote-unquote sealed. Without my consent or my knowledge. It's just gone. I can't get to it. I don't know if it's corporate sealed, or court of law sealed, or by now a lot of it is, we throw it out after 10 years sealed. That's not really sealed. They throw it out after 10 years. They don't even keep it. So, I was a lot younger whenever this came out, so now I'm like, shit. I have had to, reconstruct portions of my medical history. There's stuff doctors are still being idiots about, because clearly they don't listen. What the fuck is that? That fly is, deformed. Abnormally long torso. Hey, I can't see details for shit. Not past this. But they're all flies. You see enough things, you can identify them with or without glasses. And I'm not putting on my glasses while looking at the sun, because then I'd have, or a sunny lit area. Then I'd have to put on sunglasses. Because of the light sensitivity. Like, I've already got, like, the little, you know, those kind of blurry, weird spots that show up whenever, you know, you get too much light in your eye. Like, just stare at a light, any light, without blinking, and you get those stupid little things in your eye. I get that. Blinking. Just looking outside. So, if I put on my glasses, the sunglasses are going on, because the glasses actually magnify. So that's not the smartest thing in the world to not protect yourself from. But my sunglasses, the ones that I have now, attach to my glasses, so it's the only way I can wear them. I don't like it this way, but I can't do anything about it right now. So, it is what it is. Bye.